Maya had always been the careful one. While her friends jumped into relationships without thinking, she made lists. Pros and cons, future plans, exit strategies. It had worked perfectly for her 6-year relationship with Alex. They had everything planned out. The house, the wedding date, even names for their future kids. But when Alex sat her down 3 months ago and said those words that still rang in her ears, "We're perfect on paper, but something's missing," Maya realized that maybe being careful wasn't enough. Now sitting in the Monday morning meeting at Peterson Marketing, Maya watched their boss introduce the new creative director. The autumn sun streamed through the office windows, casting golden light across the conference room. She had her notebook ready, pen in hand, prepared to take notes like she always did. "Everyone meet Ryan Cole. He's joining us from our Los Angeles office." Maya looked up and felt something shift inside her chest. Not the butterflies she'd read about in romance novels, but something deeper. Like recognition, though she'd never seen this man before in her life. Ryan stood at the front of the room, confident but not cocky. His dark hair was slightly messy, like he'd run his fingers through it while thinking. When he smiled, it reached his eyes. There was something about the way he held himself that suggested he knew exactly who he was and didn't apologize for it. "I know LA has a reputation for being all flash and no substance," Ryan said, his voice carrying just a hint of humor. "But I promise I left my convertible and my dreams of becoming an actor back in California." The room laughed. Maya found herself smiling despite her usual reserve during work meetings. "I'm excited to work with all of you. I believe the best creative work happens when we stop playing it safe and start taking risks that matter." Maya's pen stopped moving. She'd been writing down his words automatically, but that last sentence hit her differently. After her breakup with Alex, she'd been playing everything safe. Work was safe. Her small apartment was safe. Her routine of gym, work, home, repeat was definitely safe. But safe was also boring. During the break, Maya headed to the coffee machine. The office had one of those fancy ones that made different types of coffee, though Maya always got the same thing: medium roast, 1 sugar, no cream. "Mind if I ask what you'd recommend?" Maya turned to find Ryan standing behind her, studying the coffee machine like it was a puzzle he needed to solve. "Depends what you like," she said, surprised by how normal her voice sounded. "The dark roast is good if you want something strong. The medium is safer." "Safer?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "That's an interesting way to describe coffee." Heat crept up Maya's neck. "I just meant it's not too bitter, not too weak. Middle ground." A middle ground person." Ryan pressed the button for dark roast. "I've never been good at middle ground." Something in his tone made Maya look at him more carefully. There was a story there, she could tell. Lines around his eyes that suggested he'd seen more than most people their age. A watchfulness that reminded her of someone who'd learned to be careful the hard way. "Maya Chen," she said, extending her hand. "Ryan Cole." His handshake was firm, warm. "So Maya Chen, what do you do here besides give coffee advice?" "Marketing analysis. I look at data, find patterns, help decide which campaigns will work. The practical side of creativity." "Someone has to be practical." Ryan smiled, and Maya felt that strange recognition again, like he could see something in her that she kept hidden, even from herself. "Maya." Her best friend Lisa appeared beside them, slightly out of breath. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere." Maya made introductions, watching as Lisa's expression shifted. Her friend had always been protective, especially since the breakup with Alex. Lisa had been the one to bring ice cream and tissues. She'd also been the one to suggest that maybe the breakup was a blessing in disguise. "Nice to meet you, Ryan," Lisa said, but her tone was polite rather than warm. "Maya, can I talk to you for a second?" They walked a few steps away, Lisa keeping her voice low. "Okay. I know that look." "What look?" "The look you get when you're about to do something that goes against every instinct you have." Maya glanced back at Ryan, who was now talking to someone from the design team. Even from across the room, she could feel the energy he brought to every conversation. People leaned in when he talked. They laughed more. They seemed more alive. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Maya, honey, I love you, but you're a terrible liar." Lisa crossed her arms. "I did some research after the meeting. He left LA pretty suddenly. No one's talking about why, but that usually means there's a story. Maybe he just wanted a change. Or maybe he's running from something, or someone." Maya wanted to argue, but something in Lisa's tone stopped her. Her friend had good instincts about people. She'd been the only one who'd suggested that Alex might not be the one, even when everything looked perfect on the surface. "I'm just being friendly," Maya said finally. "Uh-huh." Lisa didn't look convinced. "Just promise me you'll be careful. You're finally getting back to yourself after Alex. Don't let some mysterious guy from LA mess that up." The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and emails, but Maya found herself aware of Ryan in a way that was new for her. She noticed, when he stayed late, the light from his office spilling into the hallway. She noticed how he talked to the junior designers, really listening to their ideas instead of just nodding and moving on like most senior staff did. Around 7 o'clock, Maya was packing up her desk when she realized Ryan's light was still on. The office was nearly empty now, just the hum of computers and the distant sound of traffic from the street below. She told herself she was just being polite when she knocked on his office door. "Come in," Ryan called out. His office was already personalized with photos and books like he'd been there for months instead of one day. Maya noticed a camera on his desk, expensive looking but clearly well used. "Long first day?" she asked. "The best kind." Ryan leaned back in his chair, and for the first time all day he looked tired. "I wanted to get a feel for the current project, see what we're working with." "And? Honestly? You guys play it safe. Really safe." Maya felt defensive. "Safe works. We have one of the best client retention rates in the city. I'm sure you do. But retention isn't the same as growth. It's not the same as creating something that makes people stop and pay attention. Not everyone wants to stop and pay attention. Some people just want reliability." Ryan studied her face. "Is that what you want? Reliability?" The question hung in the air between them. Maya thought about Alex, about their planned life, about the safety she'd built around herself since the breakup. "It's practical," she said finally. "That's not what I asked." Before Maya could answer, her phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Movie night at my place. You need distraction from whatever you're thinking about doing." Maya looked at the message, then at Ryan, who was still watching her with those knowing eyes. "I should go," she said. "My friend is expecting me." "Of course." Ryan stood up. "Maya?" She paused at the doorway. "Thanks for the coffee recommendation. Maybe tomorrow you can show me where to get the good stuff around here." Walking to the elevator, Maya realized her heart was beating faster than normal. It was just coffee, she told herself. Just being friendly to a new colleague. But as the elevator doors closed and she saw Ryan's reflection in the metal, still watching her, Maya knew she was lying to herself. And for the first time in months, that didn't scare her as much as it should have. Maya had never been the type to count down minutes until lunch break, but here she was, checking her phone every few minutes. 3 weeks had passed since Ryan joined the team, and somehow her carefully structured days had become unpredictable. It started with coffee. Simple enough. Ryan would stop by her desk around 10:30, 2 cups in hand. "Thought you might need fuel for those reports," he'd say, like it was no big deal. But Maya noticed things. How he remembered she liked one sugar, no cream. How he'd linger just long enough to ask about her weekend plans or share something funny. That happened during his morning commute. Lisa had noticed too. "He's doing that thing," she said one Thursday, watching Ryan walk away from Maya's desk. "What thing?" "The thing guys do when they want to seem casual, but they're actually being very intentional. Trust me, I've seen it 100 times. Maya wanted to disagree, but she couldn't ignore the pattern. The coffee visits, the way Ryan somehow always ended up in the break room when she was there, how he'd started asking for her input on projects that didn't technically need her analysis. Their first real conversation outside of work topics happened during a late evening in the office. Maya was wrestling with quarterly reports when Ryan appeared in her doorway, camera bag slung over his shoulder. "Burning the midnight oil?" he asked. "These numbers aren't adding up the way they should." Maya rubbed her temples. "Client retention is up, but engagement scores are flat. It doesn't make sense." "Mind if I take a look?" Ryan pulled up a chair next to hers, close enough that Maya caught a hint of his cologne mixed with coffee. He studied her charts with the same focus he brought to creative presentations. "What if the problem isn't the numbers?" he said finally. "What if it's what you're measuring? Meaning, you're tracking how long clients stay, not why they stay. Maybe they're staying because it's easier than switching, not because they love what we're doing." Maya stared at the spreadsheet with fresh eyes. "So they're settling, like people do in relationships sometimes," Ryan said quietly. Something in his tone made Maya look at him. "Speaking from experience?" Ryan was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming against the desk. "I was engaged once 2 years ago. Everything looked perfect on paper. Good job, nice house, wedding planned down to the flowers. What happened? I realized I was choosing safety over happiness. We both were." Ryan met her eyes. "Turns out that's not a strong enough foundation." Maya's throat felt tight. "That must have been hard." "The hardest part was admitting I'd been lying to myself for months, maybe longer." Ryan shifted in his chair. "What about you? Ever feel trapped by your own good choices?" Maya thought about Alex, about their perfectly planned future, about how she'd felt more relief than sadness when it ended. More than I'd like to admit. They sat in comfortable silence, the office humming around them. Maya became aware of how close they were sitting, how easy it would be to lean just a little closer. Instead, she turned back to her computer. "I should finish these reports." "Right." Ryan stood up, slinging his camera bag over his shoulder. "Maya," she looked up. "For what it's worth, I don't think settling suits you." After he left, Maya sat staring at her screen for a long time, Ryan's words echoing in her mind. When she finally got home that night, she found herself looking through old photos on her phone. Pictures with Alex, smiling but somehow distant. Even in their happiest moments, there was something missing. A spark, a sense of possibility. The next morning, Maya arrived at work to find a small wrapped package on her desk. Inside was a notebook, leather-bound and beautiful, with a note tucked inside the cover. "For all the stories you haven't told yet. R." Her hands trembled slightly as she opened to the first page. It was blank, waiting. "Secret admirer?" Lisa appeared beside her desk, eyeing the notebook. "It's nothing," Maya said, but she found herself running her fingers over the smooth leather cover. "Maya, we need to talk." Lisa's voice had an edge to it. "I did some more digging about Ryan." Maya looked up, something cold settling in her stomach. "What kind of digging?" "I have a friend who works at the LA office. She says Ryan left pretty suddenly after getting involved with someone who was married. It caused a huge mess." The words hit Maya like a punch to the chest. "Married?" "It ended. Badly. Really badly. The woman's husband found out there were threats. HR got involved. Ryan transferred here to get away from the drama." Maya felt the notebook slip from her fingers. "Are you sure?" "Maya, I'm telling you this because I care about you. I can see what's happening here. The way you light up when he's around, how you've been staying late more often, the coffee thing." Lisa sat on the edge of Maya's desk. "You're falling for him, and he's the kind of guy who leaves destruction in his wake." Maya wanted to defend Ryan, to say Lisa was wrong, but doubt crept in like cold air through a cracked window. The way Ryan had talked about his engagement, the sadness in his eyes, when he mentioned making difficult choices. What if there was more to the story? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maya found herself watching Ryan differently, looking for signs of the person Lisa had described. But all she saw was the same thoughtful man who brought her coffee and asked about her dreams. During lunch, Maya decided to take a walk to clear her head. She ended up in the small park across from their office building, sitting on a bench under a tree that was just beginning to change colors. "Mind if I join you?" Maya looked up to find Ryan standing nearby, holding 2 sandwiches from the deli, down the street. "I noticed you didn't eat lunch," he said, settling beside her. "Figured you might be hungry." Maya accepted the sandwich, grateful despite her confusion. They ate in comfortable silence, watching office workers hurry past on their lunch breaks. "You seem different today," Ryan said eventually. "Everything okay?" Maya hesitated. Part of her wanted to ask directly about LA, about what had really happened, but another part was afraid of the answer. "Just work stuff," she said finally. Ryan studied her face. "You know, when I was a kid, my mom always said that the truth had a way of coming out eventually. She said it was better to face it head on than to let it surprise you later. Sounds like wise advice." She was a wise woman. Ryan crumpled up his sandwich wrapper. "Maya, if there's something you want to ask me, you can. I'm not good at pretending. Things are fine when they're not." Maya looked at him, at the honesty in his expression, at the way he waited patiently for her to decide what to do next. Lisa's words echoed in her mind, but sitting here with Ryan, they seemed to matter less. "Tell me about LA, she said quietly. "The real story." Ryan was quiet for so long that Maya thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful, measured. "I made a mistake. A big one. I got involved with someone I shouldn't have, and it hurt people, including me." He turned to face her fully. "I came here because I needed a fresh start, but also because I wanted to figure out who I am when I'm not running from my mistakes. And have you? Figured it out?" Ryan smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "I'm getting there. Meeting you has helped with that." Maya felt her heart skip. "Ryan, I know this is complicated. I know you have every reason to be careful, especially with someone like me." Ryan's hand moved closer to hers on the bench, not quite touching. "But I also know that I've never felt as connected to someone as I do to you. And I think you might feel something too." Maya looked down at their hands, so close but not touching, and realized she was at a crossroads. She could pull back, choose safety, keep building the careful life she'd constructed after Alex. Or she could lean in, take the risk, see what might happen if she stopped protecting herself so carefully. Before she could lose her nerve, Maya closed, the small distance between their hands, her fingers intertwining with his. "I do feel something," she whispered. And for the first time in months, Maya chose the possibility of happiness over the guarantee of safety. Maya had always been a planner, but love, she was learning, didn't follow schedules. 3 weeks after their conversation in the park, she found herself doing things she'd never imagined. Staying late at work just to walk to the parking garage with Ryan. Checking her phone constantly for his messages. Lying awake at night replaying conversations and wondering what came next. The business trip to New York changed everything. "It's just 3 days," Maya told Lisa as she packed her suitcase. "We're presenting the Morrison Hotel campaign, staying focused on work." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Maya, honey, you bought new dresses, 3 of them, for a business trip." Maya looked at the clothes laid out on her bed, professional but prettier than her usual conference attire. "I want to look polished for the presentation." "Uh-huh. And the fact that Ryan's going has nothing to do with it?" Maya didn't answer, but her silence said enough. The flight to New York was turbulent, and Maya gripped her armrest during takeoff. Without thinking, Ryan reached over and covered her hand with his. "First time flying?" he asked gently. "No, I just don't like the beginning part. All that power and noise, trusting that everything will work the way it's supposed to." Ryan's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "Sometimes the scariest part is letting go and trusting the process." Maya looked at their joined hands, wondering if they were still talking about flying. The hotel was elegant in that timeless New York way. Marble lobby, crystal chandeliers, the kind of place that made you feel like you were part of something important. Their rooms were on the same floor, just 3 doors apart. "Dinner?" Ryan asked as they checked in. "I know a place." The restaurant was small and tucked away, the kind of spot you'd never find without a local's recommendation. Over pasta and wine, Maya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in weeks. "Tell me something I don't know about you," Ryan said, twirling linguine around his fork. "Like what?" "Anything. Your biggest dream, your worst fear, what you wanted to be when you were 7. Maya took a sip of wine, feeling bold. "When I was 7, I wanted to be a writer. I used to fill up notebooks with stories about kids who went on adventures and solved mysteries. What happened to that dream? Life, I guess. College counselors who said writing wasn't practical. Parents who worried about stable careers. After a while, it seemed silly to keep dreaming about something so uncertain." Ryan set down his fork. "Do you still write?" Maya shook her head. "I wouldn't even know where to start anymore." "The notebook I gave you. Have you opened it?" "Once or twice," Maya admitted. "But every time I try to write something, it feels empty, like I've forgotten how to tell stories." "Maybe you're trying too hard. Maybe the best stories aren't the ones we plan out, but the ones that happen to us while we're busy making other plans." Something in his tone made Maya look at him more carefully. "What about you? What did 7-year-old Ryan want to be?" "A photographer. I wanted to travel the world, capture moments that mattered, show people beauty they might have missed." Ryan gestured to the camera bag beside his chair. "I still carry a camera everywhere, but I hardly ever use it anymore." "Why not?" Ryan was quiet for a moment, considering his wine. "Fear, maybe. Fear that I'm not as good as I used to think. Fear that the world doesn't need another photographer. Fear that I gave up the best part of myself to climb corporate ladders. That's a lot of fear for one person to carry around. Yeah, well, fear and I have become pretty well acquainted over the years." Maya felt something shift between them, a new layer of understanding. They were both people who had buried their dreams under practical choices, who had chosen safety over passion so many times, they'd forgotten what passion felt like. "Can I tell you something?" Maya said. "The winemaking. Her braver than usual. Anything. Since you arrived, I feel like I'm waking up from a very long sleep. Like I've been sleepwalking through my life, and suddenly I'm aware of everything. Colors are brighter. Conversations matter more. Even the air feels different." Maya paused. "That probably sounds crazy." "It doesn't sound crazy at all." Ryan's voice was soft. "Maya, I need to tell you something too." Something in his tone made Maya's stomach flutter with nervousness. "The situation in LA, the one your friend probably told you about, it was complicated, but not in the way people think." Ryan ran his hand through his hair. "I didn't have an affair with a married woman. I exposed one." Maya blinked. "What do you mean?" "My boss was cheating on his wife with one of our junior designers. The girl was young, inexperienced, completely under his influence. When I found out, I went to HR. It turned into a huge mess. Investigations, lawyers, threats." Ryan met Maya's eyes. "I transferred here because I couldn't stand watching a powerful man destroy a young woman's career to protect his own reputation." Maya felt relief flood through her, followed immediately by guilt for doubting him. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I'm tired of that story defining me. I wanted you to know me for who I am now, not for the mess I left behind." Ryan reached across the table, taking her hand. "But I also don't want there to be secrets between us. You deserve honesty, especially if we're going to..." "Going to what?" Ryan's thumb traced circles on her palm. "Figure out what this is between us. Because it is something, Maya. I haven't felt this connected to anyone in a very long time." Walking back to the hotel, Maya felt like New York City was putting on a show just for them. The lights seemed brighter, the autumn air crisper, the energy of the city matching the electricity she felt whenever Ryan was near. At the elevator, they stood closer than necessary. Maya could smell his cologne, could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "Maya," Ryan said quietly as the elevator climbed to their floor, "I need you to know something." "What?" "I'm not good at casual. I don't do halfway. If we cross this line, if we become more than colleagues who care about each other, I won't be able to pretend it doesn't matter." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. What if I don't want casual either? The elevator stopped at their floor, doors sliding open, with a soft chime. They walked slowly down the hallway, stopping at Maya's door. "This is me," she said unnecessarily. Ryan stepped closer, close enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Maya, if you want me to say goodnight and walk to my room, tell me now. Because once I kiss you, everything changes." Maya thought about Lisa's warnings, about her own promises to be careful, about all the reasons this was complicated. Then she thought about Ryan's honesty at dinner, about how alive she felt when he was near, about how tired she was of choosing safety over happiness. Instead of answering with words, Maya rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, a question being asked. Then Ryan's arms came around her, pulling her closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Maya fumbled for her room key. "Maya," Ryan said, catching her hand. "Are you sure?" She looked at him, this man who had awakened something in her she didn't even know was sleeping, who brought her coffee and believed in her dreams and kissed her like she was precious. "I've never been sure of anything in my life," Maya whispered. "But I'm sure of this." Ryan smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes and made her feel like she was the only person in the world. "Then let's see what happens when we stop being careful." Maya opened her door, her hand still in his, and together they stepped across the threshold into whatever came next.